Workman Colton would come in, all rise.
Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I would like to start tonight with an update that the mayor is healing and getting stronger every day. And I'd like to thank the aldermen and the city staff for their assistance during the mayor's absence. The first thing on the agenda is a public hearing. Dave, would you like to?
Sure. And Kim is out there somewhere in Zoom land, okay, taking all this down. So this hearing is called to order at 7 p.m. this 24th day of January 2022 at the Hermann City Hall. It is conducted to consider approval of a new plat for the north side of the 100 block of West 14th Street from Market Street to Highway 100, and to approve the zoning for the properties indicated on the plat. The city's Planning and Zoning Commission conducted multiple hearings regarding these matters, and upon motion duly made, seconded, and passed, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to approve the plat and make the zoning recommendations. This hearing is on the record and a transcript is being prepared. The property owners and others among the public are invited to speak. At the conclusion of all comments and the board's discussion, whether the plat and the zoning are approved or denied must be carried by a vote of the majority of the board members, provided that if there's a protest to the zoning part of this presented to the board, signed and acknowledged by owners of 30% or more of the properties within 185 feet, then we must have a 2/3 majority in order to pass the zoning. We have exhibits here for the hearing. Exhibit 1 is the affidavit of publication from the Hermann Advertiser Courier. Exhibit 2 is a copy of the notice of public hearing that was published in the paper. Exhibit 3 is the minutes from October 21, 2021 from Planning and Zoning. And Exhibit 4 is a copy of the actual plat requested to be approved tonight. And Exhibit 5 is the entire Code of Ordinances of the City of Hermann. Ms. Langer, as president of the board, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
Yes, I do.
All right. So just by way of some background and how did we get here, there was I think there were a couple of complaints and some discussion about the use of these properties, especially Lot E, Lot A and Lot E, from the neighbors across 14th Street. And so we looked into this and noticed that the properties, these lots, you can see them sort of faded there, the grayish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going from right to left. The northern half of those lots was zoned commercial, and the southern half of those lots was zoned residential. And so in terms of going to somebody and saying, hey, you're violating the city's zoning, maybe if they were doing something on the south half of their lot, well then what would they just have to do? Move it across, halfway across the lot? And it was kind of an unworkable situation in terms of enforcement of the code. So P&Z met 2 or 3 or more times, and the property owners were here, and the motion that was made was to replat it this way, where Lot A is essentially the same, except it became 6 feet wider, I believe. And then lots B and E run generally east-west instead of north-south, and so do lots C and D. And so with respect to the zoning, Lot C would be commercial and Lot B would be commercial. That's basically what they were before all this started, because those were the north half of the lots that were zoned commercial. Lot D would be residential, Lot E would be residential, which is consistent with what they were before all this started, because the south half of those lots were all residential. Lot A was bisected like the others. There's a house there that really wasn't workable for that line to go right through the house. And the motion made and passed by planning and zoning was to recommend that entire Lot A be commercial. And so I know Dolores is here if you have questions for planning and zoning, but that's the 3-minute overview of lots of time spent in meetings to try to resolve this.
Dolores, do you want to say anything, or is everything okay? Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, not really. David covered everything. The P&Z did discuss this for almost a year, this entire project, back and forth. Our engineer, or not engineer, our surveyor did have a issue with the state and their new road that they, or when they took part of the Highway 19, the bluff off, he had a little issue trying to get that all straightened out. We did have to go to a, what do you call it, a title record. We had to have that done to make sure that this is actually the property that those people own, and we're dividing it. This is a solution that everybody, all the property owners agreed to. I don't know what else to say. Dave covered it pretty good.
Thank you. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
If we've got a solution after this time, the amount of money and time that these people have spent on this, that everybody agrees to, I think we'll go with it. So, you're grown up to have very few instances where everybody agrees.
So then do we wait?
Let's go ahead and pass a motion at least to approve the plat and the zoning here. Unless anybody else has any comments, questions.
So the ordinance is actually on the agenda to do that? Do you want to just go to the
Let's do
ordinance?
both. Rather than leave the end of the hearing hanging, let's just go ahead and pass a motion to approve, and then we'll come back and pass an ordinance, because an ordinance is needed to record the plat and actually do the rezone.
So I'll be making a motion to approve the planning and zoning's recommendation. I will make a motion to approve the planning and zoning's recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Tricia, would you like to make the city administrator's report?
Yes, and it will be very brief because my computer was down all day as well as my email, and so all of the notes I was working on I did not have. But I will mention that we had our Myrma Audits, our annual audit that we have every year, and that's where they basically review all of our internal safety procedures. All the guys and all the field departments have to do multiple safety checklists and keep certain logs and things, and so all that gets reviewed, making sure that we're following all of our safety standards. They really scrutinize our HR procedures because if you make an error in HR, that can be a huge liability. So did all that, and we did get 100% again this year, so that's always a good thing. I wanted to also let you know, I wasn't sure if I wrapped that up with you all, that we had hired or approved the contract to hire our new building inspector. He had been willing to work part-time for us even if New Haven did not hire him, but they did. So we're going to be in a situation that's exactly like we had with Lee Regal, so I think that's really workable, and that will actually be most accommodating for his training starting February 1 as well. So I was happy that worked out. Also, last meeting we approved some paperwork to get a grant going for Missouri Department of Revenue for an engineering grant. So that has been turned in, and the state has reviewed it and said that it is suitable for this grant. So they have in turn sent us a bunch of procurement documentation and some paperwork we have to get in order and a drafting agreement. We have 90 days to get all that going and then back to them. So that is moving along. And just something I just wanted to mention is that, since everybody's hearing about redistricting, that could potentially affect us as well, and it is something we do need to take a look at. So the census data we have, but unfortunately they do not break down population by block, which is what we need, which is what all municipalities need to determine if there's any redistricting needed. So Corey's going to work on finding somebody to help us with some GIS software and deal with shape files. And once we can get the population by block, then we can determine whether or not we have to do anything with our ward lines. So it would be nice if we didn't have to, but what happens is that you take the current population, divide it in half, and then that is your ideal population. And then if there's more than 10% deviation between your ideal population and your actual population, then you have to look at some sort of redistricting. So we'll let you know as that moves
Is that by
along.
law?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
we have to
wondered
get
if
them
somebody
by,
complained, I heard.
it's all the way up through the state.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we'll keep you in the loop on how that goes as it gets closer. We have until April of next year to do that. And it could be that, that we don't have enough variation to warrant anything, but we do have to go through the whole process anyway. So we'll let you know about that. So that's really all I have.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Jess, we don't have a City Works report tonight.
Public Works, there's several public works things on the agenda, and I can explain those as we go.
Okay, thank you. So then the Muskrat Society, Bob Corber, would you like to report?
I'd like to thank the President and the board and other city officials and relay the Muskrat Society's thoughts and prayers for a speedy recovery from Mayor Cox. And I have a letter that I think you have a copy of. It's fairly short, and I'm going to read it so I don't leave anything out, then I'll answer questions, explain things kind of as I go along. Dear city officials, the Muskrat Society was organized to assist the Board of Aldermen of the City of Hermann in administering their historic asset, the Muskrat Keelboat, and to help fulfill the wishes of the donor, William Bailey, that it be used for educational purposes. We have worked tirelessly to utilize William Bailey's gift as he intended and have created a not-for-profit corporation to best enable us to serve those ends. There is no profit motive or other selfish motivation behind our hard work other than the satisfaction of educating people about a part of our history that they may not be aware of. The city's impromptu offer to transfer ownership without any prior communication caught us off guard. We sincerely hope that the city has not changed its mind about working with us to pursue these educational goals. The Muskrat Society would like to offer this information to explain the value about this approach and help calm any concerns. Number one, we've only attended 3 out of the city events, and the promotional value was huge. We are confident in stating that over 200,000 people have seen the Muskrat Society's exhibits in 2021. All of these exhibits were covered by insurance, all of these exhibitions. Like the city, the Muskrat Society is a Missouri corporation. Because of this, neither of us could be responsible for the other's debts and obligations. That is why we chose to set up the organization that way. Number 3, we are in the process of getting a separate insurance policy paid for by the Muskrat Society that will name the city of Hermann as an insured party and the Muskrat Society as co-insured with regard to accidents and resultant potential liabilities. This mitigates the gray area caused by our having care, custody, and control of the city's asset. Number 4, the Muskrat Society believes that it may be advantageous to own the Muskrat Keelboat sometime in the future, but not now. Number 5, the Muskrat Society's efforts need the support of the city. The city's ownership of the boat is helpful to us now. Telling potential granting authorities that we are raising funds for a boathouse and possible museum to house a city-owned historical asset will work in our favor, at least for now. As we pursue a permanent site location for the Muskrat, we ask that the city work with us to reach out to the proper governing bodies, such as the Department of Natural Resources, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the Department of the Interior, to name a few, to determine if a pavilion-type pass-through structure could be allowed at Riverfront Park or elsewhere in the downtown flood zone. We will need these agencies' approvals if we determine a pavilion will offer the best solution for a site location near the river. When we erect a museum, pavilion, or building, the city need not own it if they do not want to. We could keep this as a Muskrat Society asset. And number 8, the Muskrat Society plans to complete our educational mission without cost to the city of Rome. As stated, the Muskrat Society is a not-for-profit 501c3 corporation chartered by the state of Missouri for the purpose of preserving and educating interested parties in the colonial history of the state. Our mission is to educate future generations about the importance the Missouri River played in westward exploration, expansion, and the economic prosperity of our great nation. The river was vital in the mid to late 1700s for the early French trappers and explorers, was key for Lewis and Clark, who used it as a pathway to explore the western United States, and facilitated the West Rocky Mountain fur trade that accelerated the settlement of the West. Even today, the river is critical for recreation, commerce, and touches the lives of many. If we discard or forget our history, especially our Missouri River history, we are doing future generations a great disservice. The Muskrat Society attempts to engage and educate through a Facebook page which is updated regularly with upcoming activities and other educational related information. I won't read the address. It's on your publication. It's on your sheets. Also a robust web page and a quarterly newsletter. Presently, the Society has 404 Facebook members located throughout the United States, from New York State to Wyoming. We have partnered with the American Muzzleloaders Association, who has promoted membership in our group, and they did that starting about 3 weeks ago, and our membership has gone from 147 to 404 in that time. In conclusion, we, the Muskrat Society, are more than willing to work with the city of Hermann to realize the original vision for the Muskrat, to serve as an asset for the city and a tool to help educate our citizens in an important aspect of our history and heritage. If I can answer any questions, or if you would like to discuss this further, please feel free to contact me at any time. You know who I am and where I live, and I will make that as a standing offer. Are there any questions?
I don't particularly have any questions, but there's some things about this that I just don't feel are correct.
Okay.
I like the Muskrat. I think on display in Hermann would be a great thing. The problem is when this started, it was a muskrat. Be put on display. We discussed setting it in a cradle, possibly on the riverfront. We had to get it high enough, so that the river wouldn't get it. Well, you couldn't do that because people wouldn't be able to see it. So and I think you and I actually went up by the river memorial, up by the bridge, and looked at it, thought there'd be a great spot. Well, I had to have a roof over it at that point. There again, I didn't particularly argue with that. I mean, that's fine. I still think this is something that could be hosed off a couple times a year, and a new coat of paint put on every now and again would be pretty nice display. Well, then it went from having to have a roof over it to have a building all the way around it. Then it went to having from a building all the way around it to a whole river museum around the keelboat muskrat. Now, I'm not saying you're asking the city for money for this. I know you're not. You're trying to raise the money, and you're doing a pretty good job about it. But Bob, when this started, I attended some of these meetings when I could. And I ain't no spring chicken, but I was one of the youngest people in that room. There will come a time, it's kind of like a tontine, last man standing. And that person's probably not gonna wanna take care of this museum and that boat anymore. At that time, somebody's probably gonna walk up here to this front desk and lay the key to that museum down and say, here's your museum. At that time, the people of this town are gonna be on the hook for all this, the maintenance of that building and everything like that. And I don't think that's really fair to do that to the people here in this town. Suddenly have them having to do maintenance and take care of all this stuff that they never really asked for to begin with. Like I said, the boat on display is wonderful, but there's a lot more here to this than this. When you had to have a building around it, now this is talking about a pavilion with a pass-through structure down on Riverfront Park. Now the DNR in that down there, and our insurance company, that's a $500,000 deductible. I mean, they're not gonna cover a damn thing you put in that Riverfront Park, and I'm not sure that Riverfront Park is a place for it, because you're gonna have it around trees, and then you have to cut down the trees to keep them from falling off. And the tree people around here don't like it when you cut down trees. I think you probably remember that from when you were mayor.
Okay.
And at the end, it's just, if people didn't learn anything in the last year, I think they learned, I've heard this phrase a lot over the last decade or so, is there are consequences when you hold an election. Now, right now, you got people here that like this boat. But we have elections every year. And you might end up with a couple aldermen, 3 aldermen or 2 aldermen and the mayor that don't care for that boat very much. And if we own it, that thing could end up on a street corner with a sign on it that says, free to a good home. Now, I know you might think I'm taking that a little to the extent there, but when I became a mayor, there was a push to get rid of that beautiful caboose downtown.
Alderman.
I mean, it just, there was a real push. I mean, there were people looking online to see if we could sell it, and I've stopped that by pointing out to them, we didn't own it. They said, oh, yes, we do. No, we don't. I got the paperwork and showed them we did not own that caboose, and that stopped it right there. As a matter of fact, when they wanted to put a museum in it, we had to finalize that paperwork so the city owned it to do that. You were involved in that, getting that finalized, I think. But the thing is, do you really want to trust elected officials with the ownership of that boat?
Well, let me start. I don't know really where to start, but I'm going to answer your questions. First of all, you can't give something to somebody that isn't willing to take it. And I didn't say we wouldn't take it. I just said now is not the best time to take it. The second thing is, all along, we talked about basically a structure that would protect the boat from the elements, but mainly the above, and possibly a couple displays on each side that we could also make as part of this pavilion type affair. Pavilion is nothing more than what we already have in most of our parks. They all have a pavilion. This one would be taller, so we can put the boat in the middle of it and raise it up out of the floodplain. Does it have to be in Riverside Park? No, if you notice, we talked about anywhere downtown that's in the floodplain. And maybe some other places, there may be other places that we could put it, but it really needs to have a roof. And that is basically all it has to have. No heat, no sides, no fencing to interfere with drainage or that sort of thing. But that's all something we can discuss. But I think right now we're looking for a location, and we will let you know as soon as that happens. As far as insurance goes, we'll pay for the insurance. We're going to get, I should have had, I was promised to quote Friday, didn't get it. Promised it Saturday, didn't get it. Promised it today. It's a local person that's very reputable, and we'll have insurance with people bringing to the city. So you don't have to put this on Myrma. It'll be a standalone policy that protects the liability of potential liabilities, and like I said, we don't haul it around very much. And it will protect, also cover liabilities in the case of an accident. And it will even cover some property damage. So if your boat is damaged, it will, I don't know how we fix it, but you know, there'll be some money there. So I really don't, and as far as that goes, we haven't had any trouble generating help. And you're not the youngest one. We have some younger people that, but we have expanded quickly. And I think this is our year to expand our membership. And I really believe that there are enough people interested in this that we can sustain ourselves for quite a while anyway. I don't think it's reliant on me. If it was, I'd be afraid, because I'm not getting any younger, and I'm not able to do stuff I used to do. So I really don't, I think I've addressed all of your concerns. And I appreciate what you did initially, Dave. And I will say a couple of other things. I did, from the get-go, we talked about a roof and possibly some of the artifacts that we already had. We've had so many things donated, we've had to turn them down. We don't have a place to keep them, so we can't take them at this time. But if we have a facility where we can display them, that will be fine. If not, we'll have to just use what we have and rotate things in and out of it. The other thing was I've made several reports, and I think every report I talked about a boat and a museum. You can check, I'm sure our city administrator can check the records and see, but so this shouldn't be a surprise. The initial one was probably a year and a half ago, and I've made 3 at least, maybe 4. So that's, I appreciate your comments. I hope you'll come back and come to the meetings again like you did, and we won't work you too hard, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
No, the question isn't the initial cost. It's the long-term cost, eventually. Like I said, you're building a museum or a building that's got a piece, if it stays the way it is right now, a piece of something that belongs to the city of Hermann in it.
Well, it says in there, Dave, if you want it. We would offer it to you if you decided you wanted to add to your, the museums and so forth. But if not, we'll continue to administer it as part of the Muskrat Society, which is its own corporation and can own property and administer it and pay for insurance and that sort of thing. But we're looking at 3 or 4 years down the road at a minimum. And so we just want to leave our options open at this time. But we don't have to give it to the city. The building is, any more than we can't make you take it. We can't come in here with the keys and lay them down and say, we give it to you, here's a document. It wasn't work that way.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Bob, and we'll
Thank
take
you.
all this into
Okay,
consideration.
appreciate it.
One thing I was gonna add in there that initially when this first was brought up, it was pointed out that the Muskrat Keelboat was a liability to the city of Hermann. From what we heard tonight from Mr. Gorber and the documentation, the idea of liability to me is null and void. If they're gonna get their own insurance, it's my understanding, as long as it's inside the city, it is covered by Myrma. So I think the part of being a liability should have been dismissed. I think the keelboat is a good recreational tourist drawing event for the city.
And I would add to, Jim, that this policy we get will stand alone. It doesn't need, it's not wrapped around money. It will insure the boat in and of itself, and so we really won't need any city insurance. And there is an issue with the city, which I've checked into. I trust Trish, of course, but I do check into things, and care, custody, and control would be with the Muskrat, and because of that, we need this policy to make sure that the city's assets is insured. It would be easy for us to take it, and once we get off on our way, we very well might take it, you know, and make everything neat and clean. But anyway, the policy is standalone, so it doesn't require anything from Myrma or the city.
Is it common for a private organization to insure a piece of city property? David?
I don't know.
It just, I'm not saying it seems wrong, it just seems weird. But, okay, I mean, as long as it's legal.
I can't, it's legal, but I can't think of one example or 7 examples or, you know, of that happening.
I checked into that as well, and it turned out that the reason we put the the city is insured is because the city owns the boat. If we own the boat, then we would be insured and you'd have, we'd list you as co-insured. But the way it is now, for the next year or two, this is the best way the insurance person knows how to write the insurance, and I think he's.
My understanding is that Myrma said that it's not covered by Myrma. Because it doesn't matter if it's in the city, outside the city, whatever, if there's an accident involving this thing. Because the city of Hermann doesn't have the care, custody, and control of the boat. That's in the society. We don't house it, we don't take care of it, we don't send employees down to check on it every now and then and things like that. So we really don't have anything to do with it other than being the owner.
And when we're out of town, it is insured. Anyway, so this will cover it all the time.
But yeah, so they're gonna get their own policy and pay the premiums, I guess, and the city will be named as an insured party. So that answers the insurance question. But
Just what you just described, we don't have possession of it, we don't have control of it, we don't inspect it, was kind of the reason to give them the title to it to begin with.
that's,
Yeah, well, yeah, I explained that. You know, some granting authorities want to know an association. And as we get into this, Dave, it could take us 6 months, or Dave, 4 days. We may find out that it is possible for us just to take it, and it won't hurt. We can get some kind of a letter from the city that says, you know, we really think this is a good idea, and we like the idea, and we endorse these people as legitimate, and they've shown themselves to be such and so forth, and it might not then be necessary for you to own it and for us to do it.
I think that's the key, and I don't care whether the city owns it or not. I don't have a legal dog in the fight, but I think the point, what the elected officials might want to know is what's in it for the Muskrat Society for the city to continue to own it. Like
Well,
right
yeah,
now,
I just-
and it's the grant
Right.
opportunities.
Grant opportunities are always, a lot of them require it to be somehow, some association with a government body. It could be a government museum, it could be the city, it could be a park board or something like that. But they want that, and you get extra points in your grant application for it. And other than that, as far as I know, I don't see any other reason that we would take it. So we're still open to that. Okay. Thank you.
All right, we'll go on to public comments. We have one, but we'll hold it until we get to the food truck discussion. So next up, we have ordinances. The first one is ordinance number 2269, and this is our second reading. We read it the first time on January 10th of 2022. So Dave?
For second reading, bill number 2022-01, an ordinance to approve a joint cooperation agreement by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and the city of Middletown for operation and maintenance of a natural gas distribution system.
I move Bill 2022-01, second read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, motion carries. Next is bill number 202203.
Okay, for first reading, bill number 2022-03, an ordinance to provide that the city of Hermann, Missouri will participate in the 2022 Show Me Green Sales Tax Holiday.
I move Bill 2022-03, first read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is bill number 202204, and this is one I believe we need to read twice tonight.
That'd be fantastic.
First reading, an ordinance to approve an agreement by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and 4G Construction, Inc., doing business as Eating Construction, Inc., for the Frame Creek Gas Main Bank Stabilization Project.
So as you will recall, Jesse, the Public Works Director, at our last meeting, gave the review and the history of this project. It's been on the plans for a number of years, but we finally got the engineer rolling on it and have approved the bid at the last meeting. So we would love to read this twice to get it going. And by way of reminder, this is coming out of the gas wheeling funds.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone like to make a motion?
Move to approve 2022-04 first read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next
sorry,
is...
You want to read
Oh, we
this
gotta
one?
read it twice, yes, sorry. Please
Sorry.
read it again.
Second reading, 2022-04. An ordinance to approve an agreement by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and 4G Construction, Inc., doing business as Beating Construction, Inc., for the Frye Creek Gas Main Bank Stabilization Project.
I move 2024-04 second read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now we'll go to bill number 2022-05, and I think this is one that we also need to read twice tonight.
All right, first reading, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Madden Media to provide social media marketing.
Any comments, questions?
Move to approve 2022-05.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And please read that one again.
Bill number 2022-05 for second reading, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Madden Media to provide social media marketing.
I move Bill 2022-05 second read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next ordinance is bill number 2022-06, and this also needs to be read twice.
First reading, an ordinance to approve an outdoor advertising sales agreement by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Porlier Outdoor Advertising Company for a promotional billboard sign.
I just saw one of these new signs off of Highway 70 and it looks awesome. I move 2022-06 first read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, please.
Bill number 2022-06 for second reading, an ordinance to approve an outdoor advertising sales agreement by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Porlier Outdoor Advertising Company for a promotional billboard sign.
Move to approve 2022-06 second read.
Second. Oh, Kim got it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the next one we also need to read twice, and this is something that we do every other year. Bill number 2022-07.
First reading, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Hanson's Tree Service and Environmental Resources for tub grinding services at the city compost site.
I move Bill 2022-07 first read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll read it again.
Bill number 2022-07, an ordinance to approve a municipal services and material contract by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Hanson's Tree Service and Environmental Resources for tub grinding services at the city compost site.
I move 2022-07 second read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next bill, number 2022-08, do we need to read this one twice or once? We're on a roll.
We're on a roll of doing twice, and this has been lingering for so long, I think we can just move it on through.
All right.
I move Bill 2022-08 first read. Or move to approve.
Can you read it first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said we could just go right through it.
First reading, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk of the city of Hermann, Missouri to execute Robinson's amended plat, a re-subdivision of lots in Robinson's subdivision and to authorize the reclassification of lots A, B, and C to be zoned commercial, C1, and lots D and E to be zoned residential, R1.
I move Bill 2022-08 first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For second reading, bill number 2022-08, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk of the city of Hermann, Missouri to execute Robinson's amended plat, a re-subdivision of lots in Robinson's subdivision, and to authorize the reclassification of lots A, B, and C to be zoned commercial, C1, and lots D and E to be zoned residential, R1.
Move 2022-08 second read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, old business. This is a draft ordinance. It's for discussion only. An ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hermann, Missouri by adding a new code, Chapter 670, food trucks. Anybody want to start, or should we
I
have
will.
comments?
What the? Okay.
Go ahead.
There's a couple deals in here about liquor on these trucks. I'm absolutely not in favor of that. You do not need any more liquor sales. You just pull up a truck and start selling them. I mean, we have a lot of places in town that, bars and stuff that sell alcohol, and I think that's very sufficient for the people who come here. Now, we do have the times like, at the My Festival, we have the low spots where they do have liquor vehicles, and, special events, which is one. And we have, down at the, amphitheater, there again, these are city things, you know, most of the time it's nonprofits are done for that, and I don't wanna see those tampered with, but to just bring in food trucks with alcohol, no, I'm 100% against that. I don't feel we need that. Also, the, vending times, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. is very excessive. I would think more like 8 to 10 when everybody else shuts down. So, I don't know, the start time in the morning, I actually thought about that. I never really gave much thought as to what time you start having vending trucks, but unless one of them's a breakfast truck, I wouldn't think you need to start at 4 o'clock. Do they have breakfast vending food trucks?
Yeah, Ozark Mountain Biscuit Company
Yeah.
does out of Columbia. They have a breakfast.
Well, that might be wrong on the start time a little bit. I just never really gave that any thought about breakfast.
For bike races also that are in town?
Do what?
For bike races or other events that are early
Okay,
morning
well, see,
events,
there's a good
those-
reason to do it
Those
then.
would be
Okay.
5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
But I think 10 o'clock at night's a good cutoff time.
It's like with our
6 a.m. to
sound.
10 p.m.
That's pretty good space.
Time.
Can we put something in there for special events somehow?
Well, it is highlighted in there already.
Why is that a good time to stop serving food?
We're going with the same thing, I'm assuming, as we have music shut down at 10. And
Is that loud? Are there other restaurants that have to stop serving at 10 o'clock?
I don't know any of them that serve food outside after 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So I don't know, like when the Crown Suites was having outdoor music and they did have a food truck on their private property, we allowed that at the time. I think their purpose was to serve food to people after the restaurants closed.
That's a good point.
And you don't have, the city doesn't have to have any hours of operation.
Yeah, I don't really see why we would put a limit on the hours they can operate.
Typically, they're gonna stop serving once the people stop coming for the evening, they're gonna shut down in the evening.
Probably a good point.
You know, so this, what this is sort of a Frankenstein's monster put together by putting 5 or 6 different ordinances into this, plus taking into account some notes taken from a few weeks ago when we were talking about food trucks. So by all means, mark it up, tear it up,
So
modify it however you want.
I have one question.
can you wait just a moment while we discuss?
Absolutely.
I have a question. What about in the park? Can we put something, or is there some way that, say there's 500 campers, people camping in the park, could a food truck go there? I mean, could we have an area?
Well, that's a good question because that touches on the broader issue of food trucks on public property.
Mm-hmm.
And we, go ahead. Or-
No, so, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I was thinking about that after our conversation. And I was thinking that maybe the best way to address that is to continue just to have them use our special event application process. That we can allow it on a case-by-case basis. Because if we say they can be in the park, then there's people who, there's so many events going on down there, people rent those pavilions, you know, or there's different races that have their finish line down there, and different activities that it may not work well to have food trucks there at that time. So I was just wondering if, you know, our special event, have them go on a regular special event application and just look at it on a case-by-case.
The only thing I could see in the park area, it would have to be in what I call the swimming pool parking area, because it being parked upon a city street would be illegal, which is Mozart Street that runs past the campground.
Is that Mozart?
Mm-hmm.
So that would not be allowed to be parked upon a public street. So it would leave the swimming pool parking lot.
Which is usually full of campers.
Or the parking lot.
And at that point in time, the curfew of the park is 11 o'clock.
Yeah, there's definitely a quiet time down there. You can't go beyond that.
Maybe they could park there in the drive going to the concession stand at the ballpark?
Well, there's also, I'm old enough that I know Jim remembers it, the lower city park there, where the horseshoe pits used to sit.
Mm-hmm.
They had actually talked a long time about possibly putting camping areas there, but there's nothing going on right there that I'm aware of where you couldn't.
There's a grassy area, but
Yeah.
those new restrooms.
Unless it's
behind
muddy
the
as heck, you know,
concession.
you should be able to back food trucks right in there.
Right below the restrooms and the equipment shed.
Yeah, we'd
That's a
have to-
grassy area.
That would be, again, in the city park, and that would be part of the 11 o'clock curfew, and there's no egress of a driveway to get in there
That's what I'm
unless they
saying,
jump
maybe
the
they park in the
curb.
driveway,
And that driveway could allow only probably one.
maybe two.
If the pool, what time does the pool close?
What about the, that's what I was gonna say, what about
Yeah.
the U-shape that
Yeah.
has a pool, because they close at 7,
Yeah.
as long as they're not having a pool party.
Again, so that's why I would suggest making it like a special event application process, because there could be so many different variables,
And you also have the upper city park.
which is frequently, rented.
I mean, when it's not rented out, I mean, you know, there's gonna be scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, which again brings me back to the application, because then we
rotundas.
could check all the
Yeah.
schedules and make sure there's not conflicting events. Like,
Because the rotunda's rented out almost every weekend, so that might not, yeah. We could check the schedules and put them in, they just have to rent it or whatever.
So I understand where Dave was coming from with the liquor, but could that be bypassed with the special event?
So,
I'm not sure that, for instance, Adam Cooked, if they bring their slushy trailer in and they want to sell their food, we're not going to let them sell their food. Are they a food truck or an alcohol vendor? There's going to be consequences of
Yeah.
this if we don't iron it out.
The thing is, the police, to the best of my knowledge, as the chief sitting there is, have never had to arrest anybody that's fighting over a cheeseburger or had too many cheeseburgers. Throwing more alcohol into the place where there's a big congestion of people, I just don't feel is a real good idea. We have enough already.
Could it maybe be special event though?
Well, a special events, you know, I thought about that, you know, when you have, like I said, the witches and wine, the Volkswagen, you know, we had all that stuff, and down at the Hyman Amphitheater, that's fenced in. I know we have a lot of events down there, rhythm and blues, jazz and blues down there. I mean, that's inside a fenced area. It's an event sponsored by the city of Hermann, a special event. Yes, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a food truck pulling up, sitting up on a parking lot and start selling booze. I'm just not in favor of that.
My input on that, I had notes here. It is mentioned in here, a copy of any liquor license is applicable. The down lower in the next section, number A, it says a food truck vendor is prohibited from selling alcohol and or beer.
Well, if Dave said this is a.
That's why those are, I know, that's why that's shaded.
Yeah.
Just to,
One
so you
thing
know to bring it up.
I would look at on how that's spelled out. Of course, Dave, you're the attorney, but from my background, the use of the word alcohol is vague. I know that we were taught that it's intoxicating liquor, because alcohol itself has no aroma, where it's the hops and brews that's made into the beer or wine that you smell. So I think instead of having alcohol, it should be intoxicating liquor.
Okay.
All right, how about if we open it up to the floor? I have one speaker card, Jamie Walker.
Thank you. The new co-chapter looks great. Appreciate all that work. And, you know, it was a lot of ideas on both sides. I know to get to this point, we're still talking about it. But I thank you, and you know, I've talked to some of my counterparts on First Street. I own Stomping Grounds. That's a brick and mortar directly across the street from where most of the activity will be for the food trucks, naturally. I mean, that's a hot spot. That's why all those existing businesses on First Street are there. Really, it's an appearance issue for me. When I look at the town as a whole, what it's been built on is historic preservation. And there's been a lot of money spent on the brick and mortar, the tuck pointing, everything, you know. And then I'm getting ready to do an upgrade or some painting to my building. That all goes in front of the Landmark Commission. So everyone knows what it's going to look like when it's done. It's all been approved. Now, when these food trucks show up, you really don't know what they're going to look like. You don't know what it's going to look like there. Okay, and that's the problem that I see. That's what's written up. There's still some gray areas. Naturally, I don't like it where it's at. That's the historic corridor there. You guys have preserved it. History has shown that, and I think it's just unjust, not only to the business owners, but really collectively all the visitors that come to Hermann. You know, because they're a voice when they return to their places where they're from, and we get a lot of visitors. You know, it's an accumulative experience. I mean, just what they take back, and I don't think it fits where it's located. But eventually there's going to be a decision, and you know, they're going to be there. But that's my personal opinion for what it's worth, and I wanted to make sure I made that point that you really don't know what's going to be there until it's there. And if you take a look at the historic corridor, the city has done an excellent job on preserving what they have and protecting. And if you have something mobile, you really don't know. Things change. You're going to have people that drop out. Maybe they don't like what's going on. Their sales aren't where they should be, and so you know, you have a landowner that basically that's their tenant. I would at least hope that they would screen and at least know what's coming, but I don't think you guys will know or anyone else will know, because right now the way it looks, there's no approval process. And even if this is approved and that continues there, I still think it's an unjust where it's located. I think it could be planned somewhere else and promoted, you know, and draw people to a little different area. Where that is, I don't know. I'm a fan of food trucks. I mean, I go to Lafayette Square and some places in St. Louis, and I've had a good time. I'm not against it. I'm not against those people. They're entrepreneurs. I mean, it's great. I'm just against where it's located and the appearance. It doesn't fit.
I apologize,
Okay,
I forgot to set
yeah.
the timer, but I'm sure you're 3 minutes.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks for your time.
One thing it did bring up, and that's in this draft, It's in section B, number 4, a colored photo of the exterior, front, side, and back of the food truck is required upon the application. So we would be able to see what it's supposed to look like anyhow. That- A little clarity there that
Okay.
would fit in.
I thought that was the food, it mentioned the food, but that's actually on the truck itself.
Oh, it says of the food, but,
Of the food truck. You're right.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Could you repeat that?
Don't get cross, don't get cross.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
Okay, thank you.
Is it Kyle?
Clayton.
Clayton, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Susan, I just.
Can you come up and give your name?
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. So, Clayton Newell, I just wanted real quick, when we were going over the alcohol portion of it, and you were talking about some city stuff. I know Colleen with Hog's Head does a private charitable event down at the same event. It is a special thing, but it's not a city sanctioned event, so I just want to make sure whenever you guys are considering that type of stuff, it is inside the fence, it does meet all those other requirements. But as far as whenever you mention a city sanctioned event, you know, she does a charity event, Smoke Fest, distillers from all over the state come over there and sell their beverages as a showcase type thing. It's not like it's a ticketed event. It's not just anyone off the streets coming in there and getting drinks and going on to the next thing, but just a thing just to consider as far as, you know, the alcohol, because there aren't food trucks per se in there, but there are things, you know, in here. It's not just something that's propelled, self-propelled on its own motor. So I just wanted to say that there are some established businesses here that are utilizing some so things to consider on that. And I didn't have a whole lot else to say. I read through this morning. There's some contradictory things in here, as you said, but it's not, you know, it's not ironed out. But I did want to say that whenever you were talking about the alcohol. As far as just real quick to address any other points on like what something looks like it's temporary. You know, I don't think we have a Model T only regulation downtown. There's a lot of crazy looking vehicles and everything down there that you have to look at anyway. It's not, the buildings are preserved, but as far as the ambiance, it changes with the times. So that's the only thing I would say about that. So.
All right, thank you, Clayton.
But once again, I'd like to state, this is not an ordinance.
Right.
This is a mishmash of a bunch of stuff for us to discuss. And
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of discussion.
Yeah, David, I was just saying, during your discussion on the alcohol portion, I would take into consideration other things that are already happening. Thank you.
Comments?
But I had never given any thought to the historic aspect of that. That was actually a very good point.
Dolores Scranton, would you like to come up?
Do you have a time frame on you're gonna issue I guess a permit or a license? What, is that for just one event, one day, 1 week, whole year? Is it spelled out here? I didn't see.
It's not spelled out yet, but I think that's something we should look at.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can't have an open-ended license, and it's gotta have some time limit on it.
I had notes here, wanted to address there, I think it, and I just jotted down, not less than 14 days prior to the event, and it could be 30 days. And then as far as the purchase of a merchant's license and then a food truck permit, I would suggest $30 on the food truck permit. So yes, I think Dolores is right, we need to set up when they can apply or must apply, and speculate that, say if you come in January and get all your permits, but you're gonna set, that doesn't open the door that you can come back every weekend throughout the year. That 14 days prior to your next visit, you have to register with the city, and I'm gonna be located at 219 East First Street, set up. Here's a copy of my license and everything. I'm be selling bratwurst and hot dogs, what have you. But they have to register upon every event that they're coming in town, or they're in Hills Plaza. So the city knows that there is a food truck within town, and then also they have to get with the county health department for their inspection.
I also thought about when you look at some of the other towns that have food trucks, there are like space requirements between the trucks and all that. Do we address that anywhere? Is that something
No.
we need to?
It's not in this draft, and what I remember seeing from some of these other towns is they had space requirements, especially when they were addressing the use of food trucks on public property with their ordinance. And I don't know that we're necessarily doing that with this ordinance. I think Trish's idea of continuing to monitor or permit public property as they come is a good idea. But it's fair game if you wanted to say,
Do we want to look at it? Because, I mean, some of them might have cold stuff. Somebody else might be frying stuff. I mean, I don't know, am I thinking too much on it, or?
I don't know, if there's a lot where there could be multiple food trucks, if you want to say they can't be closer than 10 feet together or 50 feet together, or no more than 4 food trucks on a 10,000 square foot area, that's all.
Yeah, since we're looking at it, could you investigate that for us?
I know some of the other ordinances I looked at too, I made a note, we don't have it included in here, is the fire code, where they should have the appropriate fire extinguisher to support their cooking technique, whether it's oil or what have you, and that
I
must
guess
be
a big
charged.
deep fryer would require a different system than just a grill.
Correct.
But I don't think we really need to be regulating that. We
No,
can't
That's
enforce
already
that.
regulated with that.
We can't enforce that.
Well,
That's
everything
department
here is
regulations.
regulated by health department, but we need a city code to go by.
Well, you know, we could do like Washington, and have an entire page of fire-specific regulations. But then is our fire chief gonna look at every one of these and go do all that?
Why not, we have a volunteer fire department.
I don't even know.
But then,
So do they, but they need stuff to do, I can see
Yeah.
that since I'm here.
but something else I thought of too, I've seen that just in different ordinances, that once they come in, everybody is flowing good, that all permits and certifications need to be publicly posted. So if Jane Doe citizen goes in to get their favorite Philly steak sub, she can see that they have a city license to operate, they do have their permit, and they do have the county health department. It needs to be visually posted, as all other businesses in town must have those posted.
And that's the health department regulating that.
Yeah, well,
They're
The
already,
city license would be the city
It's already required.
required.
they should.
Whenever they applied for the permit had to be displayed.
Yeah,
But we don't have an ordinance, so right now, nothing's covered.
we had to do
No, that's
that.
That's what we're doing,
Oktoberfest.
ordinance.
Yeah.
That's what I was told by the city for Oktoberfest. They had to have their permit displayed. And they did.
Now, we're talking about the Oktoberfest, we're talking about food trucks.
Yep.
Correct.
So we're trying to put a food truck ordinance
We-
together.
Yeah, the food trucks bought permits and they were required to display it during Oktoberfest.
Is that true, Trish?
Um,
The
My daughter owns
fest-
one of them.
Festival
She had-
event,
So,
I
With a
know.
vendor space permit.
yep.
Yeah.
And we didn't know who was in town. We didn't
The
get a
vendor
list.
space permits we did, yeah, for the festival.
Because I asked for one and said I wouldn't see it because they were on private property.
No, I had to apply for a vendor use permit, and then each individual food truck vendor had to apply for a permit as well. So that was all approved by the city.
It was a $5 festival, special
Yeah, it was
festival
I think it was
event.
$10.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment
Well,
or discuss
I
anything?
think we're gonna need to really think through the permit duration thing that Dolores was mentioning. Is it gonna be the city's objective then to charge like a food truck who has permission from a private property owner who has a parking lot or something, that they're gonna come every weekend for the summer season? Is it the city's intention to charge them $30 every weekend? Every
Well, I
time
would
for-
I think to understand the nature of a business license,
Yeah.
which is an annual license, and then a food truck application on top of that for each visit, those kind of conflict.
Well, discussion I would say is that when they buy their city business license, which is good for a year, and also they buy the special food truck permit, those are good for a year. What I'm saying is, they have to register with the city to let the city know that they have approval from the private property on May the 21st to set up. If not, we don't know they're coming into town. I think we
On
should
private
have
property, is that something you all want to track?
private or public.
Public, for
If
sure.
they're coming
You guys
into
wanna track
town and
private as
doing a
well?
business, we should know about it.
So if they were licensed for the entire year, wouldn't the assumption be that they were here all the time?
You don't assume anything, and hopefully you know what assume means. That is why we're putting an ordinance together, that yes, I think they need to check in 14 days prior to their event. Every time they're gonna come in, they don't have to pay, but out of decency and courtesy of this city allowing them to do business, they should make a formal notification that we're gonna be set up at 314 Schiller Street.
So that puts a contingency on their business license?
No.
On approval for each time?
What if
No, I
they had a
think that it would
schedule?
be, I think the way the city needs to approach this is it's an annual license or permit, and for a certain spot with permission from the property owner, and the property owner and the city and the applicant all have the understanding that they can have a food truck there 360 days that year or 3 days that year. You know? And if somebody,
So any further notification would be if you wanted to move to somewhere else,
right,
another location within town?
yeah, or you change your operation somehow,
Yeah, so if it was on First Street, but next weekend I wanna go to Bavarian Hills, I would have to have a separate set up permission from that property owner presented to the city. That's what I'm kinda getting at is,
So it would be a designated spot would be on that application.
it's only
their
good for
permit.
that one spot.
That makes more sense.
But it's good
Yeah.
for the year,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
along
good
with
for
the fee.
and just have it designated on the permit where they're going to be located.
No, it wouldn't necessarily be on the permit. Cause if I bought a permit and I'm setting up on First Street, then do I have to buy a new permit if I wanna go to Bavarian Hills?
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
That would be another
Mhm.
Police need to know.
$25, $30 for that permit?
I don't think you need to
But-
buy another permit to operate in a
That's what I'm
different
saying.
spot in the
It's all
city.
the same, yeah, it's just a
I think you
different
just
location.
amend it or add to your permit.
They'd have to fill something out and have permission to move to that other location.
Just, yeah, that would just-
That's really up to you guys, whether you wanna charge another $30 or not.
I wouldn't
No,
think
I
we
was
should
not charging
charge, no, I wouldn't want to charge them, but I think they should let us know that.
So we
hey,
know where they're
We
at.
got permission, here's a signed paper from.
Well, and if
John
there's a
Doe.
problem, and then the police department will know where they're at too, so that probably. But
Yeah,
this
I'm
is a
just trying to
working
think
document,
through the paperwork
so,
in my
yeah,
head, but I'm
yeah.
sure there's a way.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments or suggestions or questions?
I think I just want to make it clear that, I was discussing this with Dave earlier, that he wrote this through the lens of it being about private property. So I just want to make it clear to the public that even though like on here on B down here where it says, food trucks shall be permitted to operate in all zoning districts of the city except for the residential zones, that still does not mean that people can park on public streets or
Right.
city property without permission. We're
And
all
that would
clear
be
on
a special event.
That would be a special
Okay.
event.
I like that.
And if it's private property, a private business, it's okay.
Yeah, if they've jumped through all the hoops.
Okay.
One further clarification, if they have a business license and a food truck permit, would they still be required of a festival permit?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you come up?
If they have a business license and a food truck application, is the festival permit still required?
Technically.
Yep. Yep.
It's often,
Yeah.
yeah.
So even if they're already licensed to operate in that spot for the entire year?
For a vendor space permit, yes, we still have that in the code that for My Fest and Oktoberfest weekends, that all vendors are required to fill out a vendor space permit, and that is that simple $10.
Would that just change their classification from vendor to operating business? Because if they're a licensed business within the town, the rest of the licensed businesses, we don't have to fill out a special operation permit. So wouldn't that just change their classification from a vendor?
Maybe if they're not changing, that might be a point if they're not changing location.
Well, that was the thing, is
Yeah.
it would be.
Yeah, if you've got, if
But
the
if
city is already given a permit for you to park a truck between that door and that door 365 days a year, and then we happen to have a festival come around on the calendar, We've already given them permission to have that thing.
Yeah, because
there.
you bought it for 365 days, not barring something.
The
else.
MyFest bulk spots, like when we shut down the road and they're not at their normal location.
And what?
MyFest or special events where they may not be, in this case, they may be there, that may be the best location. But like they close down on MyFest and they might want to participate in the MyFest bulk spots, and so they're not at their original location, they're on the
So they're
MyFest
not between
ground.
that door and that door, they're
Right.
somewhere else? Well, yeah, then they would.
Then they
So
have
it's
to.
a
There you
little
go.
convoluted, yes.
I just want to make sure,
So
like,
I guess the answer is if they're not in their permitted location on a festival, then they'd still need the vendor permit.
right.
Okay, so let's move on. Is there any other old business?
Can I just ask, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just one- Can you just explain the process a little bit of moving forward, what happened?
Well, we don't know yet because we have to work on the ordinance and
Okay,
figure
so
this
that's
all
what
out.
I'm saying, like, it's gonna be drafted
Oh,
further and then
yes.
another review or another?
Oh, there's gonna be a lot more discussion.
Is it safe to say that on the next meeting's agenda, it'll just be under old business again and there'll be a red line
If,
version
I guess
of
if we're
this
ready.
with changes?
Mhm, If
Just
we're ready.
more discussion.
Yeah. This won't go away. We'll keep working on it. All right, any other old business?
One question,
Okay.
Central Electric one. I know Jesse ain't here, I hate it, but you are.
All the title work is done, I believe, except for one property. And so, now, I guess I can start this, but in terms of actually preparing all the documentation needed to give Central all of the easements that it needs, usually since the party who's getting the easement, you kind of give them the honor of drafting whatever document it is they want. So let me contact Central's lawyer and see if she wants to take charge of that, get that done. You know
And
what I
then,
mean?
yeah, and then
If I
this
do-
is for the Central Electric, the 69 bolt lines, correct?
Yeah.
So everybody knows what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Okay.
So,
The poles ain't getting any younger?
No, they're gonna meet their deadline. They had a March deadline to have all the easement stuff done, so
Okay.
I think we're doing good.
Any other old business?
The CTOL booster pump
Yeah.
is that moving along.
Permits been sent off. The engineer and Jesse are working with Archer and Gary DeWitt from the well company. They've already ordered the small day-to-day pumps. They said it'll take longer to get the big fire pump, but yeah, they're on it. It's moving.
New business. All right, let's go to motions. The first motion is on the minutes.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next would be invoices for payment.
Move we pay the bill.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I got a question on that.
Okay. The next one is the bid from SAP Construction for $1,223,888.50 for cured in-place pipe wastewater project.
My question there is, what is it?
Yeah, that's
There's no data given to the board of any
Oh.
explanation
Oh,
or
I'm sorry.
bids or?
oh yeah. That's isn't that in here with your information? Yeah, it is. It's a memo from Archer. And then there's the whole bid tab connected on there. So this is part of one of the phases of our wastewater improvement project. And this is for I&I reduction, which is to keep a bunch of stormwater out of our, and wastewater things out of our storm drains. And so this CIPP is a cured in place pipe, and that's what Jesse was explaining to us at the last meeting, or was it that, maybe that was the UAB meeting, where they line the sewer pipes, and it's a much cheaper process than installing new ones. So it cures, they put some sort of material in there in a balloon, and they cure this material inside there after they clean it all out like a big rotor-rooter. So anyway, this is what's recommended by our engineers, and they said this has been a very successful type process. So yes, so this is in lieu of replacing sewer pipe. And so this is actually one of those projects that has been lingering along out there for a long time, and finally got it moving again. We have the money, it's that bond money. This is been one of the stages built into this phase 3. So yeah, we're glad to get that in the process as well.
Good explanation.
Apology, it was in a book, but evidently stuck as I turned the other pages and I did not see it.
That's okay. Now, I'm sure Jesse would have given a much more articulate explanation, but that was about my knowledge level on that.
It should see the dollar amount, and I said, where's that coming from? What's that for?
Can you tell what pipe it is that's being replaced?
It says it in the small print.
Is it on west side of town? Is that what you're talking about, West Street?
Yeah.
Jesse would know that off the top of his head, but I want to say, yeah, it's on, what is it, West 7th?
Okay.
I think that's where
I
they're.
think I remember him saying that.
Starting, sorry, I don't know that off the tip of my tongue there.
This is, there's a lot of old pipe and we've got, unfortunately, at times we get a mixture of storm water and sanitary sewer. That ain't gonna go. So this is actually a pretty good way to do it.
I think they've done some last year or something where they.
You line them. Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is approve the low bid from Schulte Supply Incorporated for the 8-inch sewer pipe.
Yes, so as the memo says there, that there's a potential project that was not budgeted, but would be an extension of that line. And they had found a vendor that had some pipe in stock, so they can sell it to us much cheaper than the inflated rates that we'd have to get elsewhere. So whether or not this project actually moves forward, Jesse really thought this was a great deal, and we should snatch it up while we could.
That's good. Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Okay, the cured in place pipe, 8th and 9th Street alley, and 2nd and 1st Street alley, Schiller to Gutenberg. That's where that's going.
Thank you.
Second and first alley. Okay, next is pool management hiring. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Corey has been working very diligently at wrestling up some management for the pool, and you actually interviewed this lady. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, she comes pretty, has a lot of background with it. She worked in Harrisonville for a number of years. She's a retired paraprofessional from a school district. She did it in Harrisonville and then here in Gascony County. And she ran that pool in Harrisonville, kind of filled in anywhere she was needed. She has experience running events for them. And I think she'd be a really good fit for manager. And Megan Cutoff has just a really good can-do attitude. She's coming in as the assistant. She comes to us with prior years of experience as well.
And do these ladies need to go and have their training, or are they certified?
Yes, they will go off to training. The pool manager, Nancy Cochran, will not be participating in the more physical aspects of that due to an injury. And I've been coordinating a little bit with Missy Hollander over in Florissant, who will be conducting this course. And she said that's fine, send her along, the information will still be good for her. And Ms. Cutoff has been very willing to help train and do the more physical aspects for now.
Will this lady be able to do the physical aspects at some point? If needed?
She may. I think her administrative skills more than make up for
Okay.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that we have to have one trainer who can come in turn and train all of our lifeguards, and then the lifeguards help with all of the swimming class lessons. So I think it's gonna work out.
Would anyone like to approve the hiring of these ladies?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is Little League registration fee, and it's going up a little bit. Can you talk about that, Trish?
Well, as much as I know, and that is that this has come up from the Hermann Youth League to the Park Board, and the Park Board has approved it and is recommending this as well. It's always, I think ours is just a little bit on the low side. Our fees have been, and we, most years, just barely break even. And there is a new fee that's going to be associated with the website, the online registration that the Youth League is wanting to start, and so that'll help kind of absorb some of that fee too, so we don't have to charge the parents an additional fee. It'll just be a part of this whole total.
And that'll take away from people coming in and bringing their paper and their
Yeah,
money
it's
here,
gonna
so it'll
be
save time here.
it's gonna be several months out,
Yeah, it's not gonna be for spring soccer or Little League.
but it is in the works.
That's good.
But they're coming out of the dark ages, and people are gonna be
Oh, I
able to
know.
do this online, and that just will be unbelievably wonderful.
Yes, yes. So, all right. Would anyone like to approve this?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is an application for a special event by Frye Distilling Company, and it's for a wedding, and the ceremony is all that's going to be held there.
Only question I have on that, I've researched other events. This is over a year and a half out. I think that usually it's not more than 6 months previous to the event.
Well, with the way things are today, they're planning ahead. I mean, you wanna have a wedding, and honestly, I kind of applaud them for doing it this way instead of
Most
waiting
weddings
till
are
last minute.
about a year out, so they're just a little out of schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah, other than that, I just see it because I know some of our ordinances that some of the permits may not be applied more than 6 months out. So that was a concern there. I'm like, heck, in a year and a half from now, that wedding may not even happen.
well, that's their problem.
They got on the books, which I understand.
They've got a venue for it, so.
And it says 60 people, and that should fit there, shouldn't it?
Well, they've got the outdoor area of Fernway in there. I mean, my sister got married there. It was a very nice little place, so it just merges nice for what they have there. I think it's wonderful, so.
Okay. Anyone want to approve it?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is another special event application. The Hermann Area District Hospital wants to do the Red Heart Walk, and I won't vote on this because I filled out this application.
No, you got something to do with it?
I had something to do with that. We're bringing it back. It's going to be the 13th walk, so
Move to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Another application for a special event, Go St. Louis, a KT82 Trail Relay Race at the amphitheater. That's where the finish line will be. They've done this a number of years. I won't be doing it ever again either. So,
Move to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then they would like, the Arts Council would like to appoint Chad Walton and Becky Myers to the council. And their applications are here.
Is that for replacement of terms or something?
No, they are allowed so many members, and like with a lot of our councils and groups, they have trouble finding members, and these are two people that have stepped up that want to help.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is approve Madden Media advertising contract for the 2022 Missouri Spring Insert Campaign. Does anybody have questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next thing is approval to purchase Dino Park playground equipment from Frye and Associates. This is in the budget, and this will complete the dinosaur.
Good, because he was looking kind of peaked down.
He's kind of skinny in the middle, there's nothing there.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next is Aaron Krutz. So, public transit license for A-Rod's transportation.
Yep.
Okay.
You that don't know, Aaron has a trolley, which I think is fantastic. Aaron's a Hermann boy, pretty much been here his entire life. He knows the town and he knows the business, he's been there long enough.
Aaron, do you want to say anything?
Well, I've been doing this about 11 years now, and just can plan on continuing a good service to Hermann and bringing people in and do it in a nice, safe way and just continue on.
All right. So would anyone like to approve this transit license?
Yeah, I would just say that as you see that with the public transit and the vehicle for hire, he's getting both of those because the vehicle for hire are for the 15 or fewer passengers, so they're for vans, or is that what you have?
Yeah, the two shuttle vans
shuttle
are
vans.
a little less passenger.
Yeah, so those are where there's two separate licenses.
Okay.
I move to approve both licenses.
Can we do that at the same
Can I
time?
do that? Or
Okay.
Sure.
Does anyone want a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Motion carries. All right. We are going to adjourn and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And then we need a motion. Yes.
Make a motion, meeting adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aaron, good luck.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Pretty good.